Good day, folks. This is Greg Judy at Green Pastures Farm. Today we're setting up paddocks for the weekend. So all we have to do is roll up a wire, and we're actually on a big bottom. I measured the grass a little while ago. Some of this fescue is up around 9 inches. The clover's not that tall yet. So we'll get a little bit of overgrazing on the clover, but we're just not going to come back until it's recovered. So we're looking at April 2nd. April 2nd. So yeah, we're staring the spring flush in the eyes here pretty darn quick if we can get rid of these cold nights. Last night it got down to 28. Night before it was 26. Froze the water in some of our hoses, but they thawed out pretty quickly because it got up to in the 50s. Today is supposed to hit 65, so yeah, next week they're saying 90 by the end of the week. That's hard to believe in April. But we've got a new fellow on board, Connor. Connor showed up on the 31st of March, and him and Ben are down there putting in a water drinking area on the creek. We're going to be on this 2 days. So this is the first paddock. When they come in, we'll be hooked onto that red pigtail, and it's going to go all the way across this bottom. This is a big bottom. So we're on about 20 acres here, counting the hillside up there, and we're just going to make it 2 paddocks. Now the bulls right now, that's what's coming in here. There's 78 bulls along with some steers that we banded earlier in the week. They're all mixed together now. And we're just moving them once a day until the grass really takes off. And what we're doing is we're giving them bigger areas because we don't want them knocking it down too short with that first graze. So we've got about 9 inches of grass out here, and we're just gonna take the top of it and move them. You can just tell already the bulls are starting to put on weight. Steers are looking good, and this is just a very pretty area down here. We're actually headed toward this is Ray's, what we call Ray's farm, and Ray lives up there on that bluff. Got a really nice place up there on the hill, and this is a really good turkey and deer hunting down here. So the reason I'm going to come in here now is turkey season is not till 3 weeks off. I'm a turkey hunter myself. We're going to come in here and we're going to be gone. So we'll graze this and get out of here. We're going to leave a lot of good tender growth that can come back. And that's really good draw for turkeys because it brings in good grazing. They'll be flipping them in their paths and going after the bugs that are coming onto the clover. And we're headed for Dave and Sue's, and Dave, he's a turkey hunter too, so we're going to be out of Dave's way too. So kind of got that planned. Don't be in areas, if you have land that is owned by hunters, you don't want to be in there in hunting season. You gotta be out of there. You can't be setting up on a gobbler and have 2 guys coming down through on a four-wheeler to move cows and spook the turkeys off. This is just a beautiful area down here. It's one of my favorites. This is some of my old stomping grounds back in the 80s. I used to come up through here at least once, probably every week, in the dark on my mule. That was in the days that I coon hunted with coon dogs, and I had a jumping mule, and her name was Judy. And Judy and I would come up through this creek, and that's a good place to hunt coons. And back in those days, on a good night, you could make more money coon hunting because the pelts were worth a lot of money. I think the top price I got was $45 for one hide for a big one, a nice big coon. And then, it just fell apart. People started burning stores down that had fur in them and throwing paint on you and all kinds of stuff, and it killed the fur industry. But the fur industry, it was founded back in the days, going a long way back, but cavemen, they wore furs, they'd have froze to death. But now it's not, I don't know, however you want to say it, it's not proper to wear fur. But I tell you what, I've got some gloves that's got fur on the inside of them in the wintertime, and I've got a hat too that's got fur on it. There's nothing warmer. I mean, it's 10, 15 below and that wind chill's blowing. I'll take a fur coat over a synthetic hat any day of the week. And it is a replenishable resource, and a lot of young men and young ladies, back in the day, that's how they made their living. You know, they could go out on the land on the back of the place where there's some timber and do a little trapping or hunting and get some fur. And that was the way they made their money. So, you know, it's rural. That's the way you grew up. That's the way I grew up. We were always out trying to get fur in the wintertime, and we ran a trap line. And Judy and I, my jumping mule, we traveled thousands of miles. Because on a mule, you can probably hunt 20 miles in one night pretty easily. If you keep a good pace. And I had really fast dogs. And we could cover a lot of ground. I thought that was an eagle, but it's not. It's a big old buzzard. There was an eagle nest down here in the sycamore tree that he had his nest in. It blew over, fell on the ground. He had a great big nest up in the top of it, or they, whatever, the pair of eagles. But there's still eagles hanging around here. We see them about every day. They've got a nest around here somewhere. I just haven't found it, which is not a bad thing. Maybe it's hidden. Nobody will mess with them. But we've got all this ready to go. We're going to put a wire in across here. There's a spring right on the side of that hill where those cedars are. We're going to fence that spring off because I don't want my cow or the bulls in there mucking that up. And then we're going to be done with this bottom and ready to go on up the hill onto that hillside and just keep the rotation going. So the one thing I would caution everybody is don't lock your cattle down on a really small area once you do start grazing. It is a spring flush, folks. And I tell people you've got to forget about mob grazing in the spring. You've got to spread them out and move them faster. Otherwise your grass in that spring flush here in Missouri, I'll give you an example. We can go from a 8-inch tall grass blade, and in 10 days, it can be 18 to 20 inches. That's how quickly it grows. And so you've got to be on top of this stuff, and if you're not careful, you can end up with a lot of woody plants. And it depends where you live. I got a good email from a guy in Nevada, and he was saying, I just got over my farm once for the whole year. Well, that's probably about right. The guy's doing a terrific job, because if he tried to go around his farm like we do here in Missouri 4 or 5 times, in Nevada where you don't have the rainfall, he's going to graze out all of his good plants and kill everything. So he was doing it right. He had a lot of litter, old stuff, and I told him, I said, just beat it on the ground. Try and get as much carbon as you can trampled on the ground, and you will grow more grass. Okay, but in the area where you're getting a lot of rainfall, if you just graze it once a year, your cattle are not going to do well. They're going to suffer in that environment. Okay. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and sign out of here. The boys are over there by the foyer waiting on me, and we're going to get going here. Everyone have a good one, and hit that subscribe button on the way out and that little bell signal next to the subscribe, and you'll get a posting in your email box every time I post a video if you hit that bell signal. Anyway, y'all have a good one, and we're going to see y'all down the road.